Ready? Yeah. No, I'm asking. All right, here we go, here we go, here we go. Intentional networking, right? Come on in, here we go. I am thrilled to introduce my friend, Bob Courtright. Bob is the founder of Courtright and Associates, a retained executive search consulting business development and outplacement firm located in Scranton. Bob founded the firm in 1989 and holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting and an MBA in finance from the University of Scranton. He's also a CPA. He's a CPA that's going to talk about networking. How does that work? All right. Bob is an adjunct professor at Marywood University. He's also a past adjunct faculty member at the University of Scranton in the Graduate Human Resources Program. Bob has appeared on local and national weekly radio programs to discuss jobs and networking, including Dr. Dawn on Careers on Sirius XM. Bob is an active community member, including a founding member of NEPA Networkers. He's here to talk about intentional networking. Bob Courtright.
That's fine. My friend, I have to give credit to, can everyone hear me? Okay, I have to give credit to my friend Marty Wolf. Marty and I usually do this together. Marty isn't here today, but he helped put this program together, so thank you to Marty. One of the things we looked at, we actually teach an intentional networking course. We teach this course. It's over a 5-6 week period. I think we have a graduate of it somewhere here today. And this is a little different for us. We're looking at high school. Normally, we're looking at adults when we're teaching this course. But anyway, one of the things we thought about is how can we make this relatable for you guys? So in that handout, we put that, you know, I want you to think about, it's 10 years from now, you know, where will you be? What will you be doing? You know, what will your life be like? What kind of career are you in? Now, I don't know at your age if you're used to hearing this, if you get this question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, the reason you get that question is adults are still trying to figure it out. That's the truth. I do outplacement. I talk to people from their 20s to their 60s still trying to figure out their life. So when we ask about what, you know, that question about 10 years from now, that can be really stressful. And you don't know. Now, one of the things that I like to talk about is my friend Dawn Graham, who she used to have this show, but called Dr. Dawn on Careers. She wrote this book called Switchers. And on her show a number of different times. And one of the things she would say is that clarity comes through action. Clarity comes through action. So I remember a million years ago in the dark ages when I was 16, 17, and someone saying to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a pro football player. That's not going to happen. I don't know what I want to be. You know, pick something. So I ended up picking accounting because I thought I was good at numbers, and that went okay. Then it didn't go okay, and I wanted to do something else. So, you know, that whole thing about what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I know 2 people in my life that knew what the heck they wanted to do at that age, and they ended up doing it. The rest of us didn't. Even if you think you know what you're doing, you get on a path and you do it and see where it leads you. But you at least have to try to pick something. And my point here is don't overstress it, that it's going to be, oh, well, and there are so many things I'm not really sure. Clarity comes through action. If you pick something and it works out, that's wonderful. Chances are it isn't. But you're going to find something else. In that journey, you're going to find something else that you like. So whatever it is, pick something, do it well, work extremely hard, do it as well as you can, and see where life leads you. But you at least have to start that process. So overcoming hurdles to networking. Now, a lot of people will think networking is sales, or it's a little sleazy kind, it's more sales, you're trying to sell something all the time. Networking is not. Networking is building relationships, long-term relationships. It's not about sales. It's short-term. And I get this all the time. Well, I'm an introvert, I'm not as good. Believe it or not, I think I'm an introvert. There's something called an ambivert. And that's maybe more of what I am. And that's the person who tends to be an introvert, but when lights come on, the camera comes on, you do your bit, and you're okay with it. But most people are introverts that think they're introverts. And most people that I talk to think that networking is about, the crazy guy or girl out there jumping around and being the life of the party, and it's not. Introverts are better networkers. There's a number of different reasons. I think one of the main reasons that introverts are better networkers is because they tend to listen better. They listen, they react. They don't want to, get their point across to you. They want to listen and learn. People will, one of the things we talk about networking all the time, you meet someone at an event, shake a hand, do whatever you do these days, and you ask them, why are you here? What are you about? And you listen to what they have to say, and then you respond. You actively listen. This is what introverts do. Introverts are better at networking. So don't think, oh, I'm not in sales. Don't think I'm not an introvert. I can't be a good networker. You're a better networker. So believe that. We talk about, in networking, we talk about layering. Layering in life. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times in life and in my business, it may be, where I see Tony. Tony walked in and out, Tony Bartocci. I was going to bring something up that just came to me now, that you meet people, and it's just about, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing? And you listen to them, and maybe you let it go, and you run into them somewhere else, or there's a number of times you run into people. Maybe it's on that second, third, fourth time that you're talking to them that something happens. So that's the layering aspect. It's not, I meet Joe today, I meet Tammy today, I meet whatever, and I get something out of this today. That's not going to happen. And you shouldn't, and you know what? If something happened like that, it's not going to last very long. So it's about layering, getting to know that person, being involved with a couple different things and getting to know them a little bit before something can actually happen. I like to tell, my friend Marty would have me tell this story, and this is a layering story too. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the business channel. There's Sirius XM Radio. I'm sure you heard of Sirius XM Radio. There was a show called Dr. Don on Careers. And one day, I don't know, got sick of sports for that day. I said, let me give myself a little culture, a little something else. Let me try this channel. So I'm listening to it, and Don Graham is talking about the things I do, networking, career development, all that, recruiting, and all that kind of thing. So I'm in my car, I'm driving to my son's house, and I've never done this in my life. I call a radio show. I've never done that. And I gave Don one of these lines that Marty gave to me, in that it's better in networking, it's better to be interested than interesting. I could come out and tell you how wonderful I am, and it's gonna blow you away, and you're gonna say, this guy's a bag of hot air. But if I ask you about yourself, people like talking about themselves, by the way, even introverts. If they know it's one-on-one, you're serious, people like talking about themselves. So that starts off, I call Marty, I said, Marty, in case someone from California calls you and says, I heard your name on the radio show, it's true. So better to be interested than interesting, interested in someone. And in one of the radio shows that I used to do, we talked about what it takes to be a good networker. And one of the things I said to the host is, I said, I'm not smart enough to fake networking. You have to have a genuine interest in either the person or the subject, or you can't be a good networker. Because if you're faking it, the person on the other end that you're speaking to will see it, and you'll be a phony, and that's worse than not networking at all. Anyway, so we start with that. And then I called Dawn a couple other times on the show, and we got to be a little friendly. And then I introduced her to Marty. I introduced her to a couple other people. Marty and her hook up. Marty had a podcast. He put Dawn, who had a book, and people who write books, they don't get rich. They invest in them, most of them. They're not Oprah. Most people aren't Oprah. It's more of a lost leader. So Marty gets on the podcast. They go back and forth. They go back and forth. She calls Marty saying, hey, we had someone back out. Would you want to be on the program? And Marty says, well, can I bring Bob along? Sure, bring Bob along. That started, a goal of mine was to be on that show. Well, 6 shows later, I was actually on the anniversary show that she only picked a few people out. So what happened? You get an introduction, you meet someone, you take it here, you take it there, and you're not maybe getting to that ultimate goal for a while. but you're layering the relationship. And by the way, feel free to yell out at any point if something doesn't make sense or if you have a comment. I'm more used to workshop stuff and people telling me I'm wrong or I have an example or something like that. So feel free to do that. So layering is critical. And again, introvert, don't worry about it. You're already ahead of the game if you're an introvert. By the way, life is competitive. You people right here are ahead of your classmates and people in other schools because you're here and you're learning this. You're already ahead of them. That's a good thing. Life is competitive. Everything's competitive. As far as some of the other hurdles, one of the things that I like to talk about, obviously we all have interests. So you have an interest, it's easier to network. It could be sports, it could be bird watching, I don't care what it is, it could be social, whatever it is. And it's easy to try to find that group and gravitate to that group and meet those people. But one of the things I like to do is, and I always say it's good to work outside or do some things outside your comfort zone. And I like to say that I don't know what my comfort zone is because I'm always getting out of it. But I learned from that. I learned from being out of my comfort zone. So one of the things we look at is find out what you want to do, network as much as you can in that, but every once in a while, like try to do something outside of your comfort zone. That's where learning comes from. And whatever you do, it's not just that one thing. Life doesn't operate in a vacuum if you're going to be an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is. There's more to life than just that. So one of the things I think you want to think about is be very focused on what you want to do, but also every once in a while go outside of that expertise or whatever you're looking to do. Get out. I remember, again, a million years ago when I was in high school, it was that you were at this high school and you don't talk to someone, even at the high school that's 5 minutes down the road. And that's just the way it was. Thankfully, things are a lot different now. Meet people from other high schools. Network with people here from other high schools or from wherever. That's how you learn. Ignorance sometimes is our own little box, and we tend not to want to listen or to learn anything from it. That's ignorance, and that creates problems in the world. So reach out to others that aren't in your own little domain. Most people, and again, this is why I think you're ahead of the game, most people are not taught networking in a formal sense. I make a living off networking. I practice what I preach. I keep a roof over my head and I get to go on vacation because I know how to network. I learned that, and a lot of people don't get this in their upbringing. I looked back on my upbringing and I realized what a great networker my dad was, and I didn't even know it. And some of these things came I didn't think they were, but as I got older, they got a little more natural to me. So you're not taught this. And I do as many of these talks as I can because I know how important this is. So networking is critical to success in life, but you're not taught that. You should be. And I'm out there preaching this gospel as much as I can because I believe in it. In high school, I've taught GED classes, you name it, anyone that will listen because I think it's that important. And you're never too young or too old to learn this. So you're not taught, it doesn't mean it's not important, it's critically important. But understand that it's not English or math or some of the other things that you're going to school and you learn every day. It doesn't make it less important. It's very important. Just because there's not sometime before they plant me, maybe I'll get it in a few districts, or I'll get it in a few colleges, but it will be out there. It's becoming more popular because I think people really get it. They understand how important networking is. But again, and you being here is almost, I look at it as a first step, being at this conference and being in this room. Again, culture at home, sometimes it's almost looked at as if you're a networker, you keep to yourself, you be conservative and all that. And it's, again, I'm here to say that not only is it not a bad thing, it's a very good thing, and you'll learn more from networking than anything else you do in life. One of the other things I look at, and believe me, if there's an example of anyone who's embarrassed himself in this room, it'd be me. And one of the things I would tell you in networking, no one's ever shot me. I've never suffered any mortal harm. When you're out there networking and you reach out, what is the worst thing that could happen? You meet someone that's a jerk. That's probably the worst thing that could happen, and you run away from them. So I always kind of look at that. You get in this situation. What are you going to get from this? What's the worst thing that could happen? And I stick this big nose into a lot of things. It hasn't been cut off yet. So there's really, again, the worst thing I found is I found someone who's a bit of a blowhard, that talks too much, that irritates me a little bit. And you know what I do? Then I walk away and I go somewhere else. So you're not going to be harmed by doing this. But you keep in mind that it's about active listening. It's about, hey, what are you here for? Usually you're in a room, there's a reason you're there. You listen to what they have to say. You'll read some books, and a lot of people will say, hey, here are 10 questions you could have when you go into networking. And I don't like that. I have one question. Hey, again, depending upon why you're in that particular room. Hey, what brings you here, or why are you here? Just one lead-off question. What's your name? What do you do? Anything, just that one question to start off. Then the other questions are based off that answer they give you. I really don't like in networking books where they'll say, here are the 10 questions. Well, that seems staged. I don't want that. You ask a question or two. You ask that one question. You listen to what they have to say. We'll get to some fundamentals. And Don, what are we, 10, 20? Are we done?
So 10, 20 questions, right?
Okay, all right. We look at fundamentals. Now, be likable. And sometimes when I write that, I feel like it's saying, oh, yeah, be a millionaire. Oh, yeah, it's easy. But there are some very basic things about being likable. One is you smile. And you look people in the eye. Hi, I'm Bob. What's your name? And you smile. And you don't look like an axe murderer. You look like you're someone who's a nice person. That smile and that contact, that'll do it right then and there, because most people don't. So you be likable. It's that. I wish I could come up with something smarter. It's smile, look someone in the eye. And then you ask about them. That's how you become likable. Again, I write it and people look at it and say, oh yeah, it's like being be a millionaire. Okay, yeah, let's be a millionaire. Now, how do you do that? Yeah. Talk to everyone everywhere. A gentleman who I got to know, who unfortunately passed away earlier in the year, and I think he was in his late 80s. He wrote this book, Network All the Time, Everywhere with Everybody. His name is Jack Killian. Wonderful man. Networked till literally up until the day he died. Why? Because he got something from it. He got something from it. He gave like crazy. He helped me and Marty and a bunch of other people I know, but he gave like crazy. And he got something. He wasn't reaching out to get something, but he kept getting things back. So I would highly recommend, I'll talk about these books before I leave, but certainly Don Graham, Switchers. This is now, it may seem crazy that you're just starting off in your career. This is about people who are switching jobs or industries and all that. It's still good for anyone looking at being a business professional. Jack Killian, Network All the Time, Everywhere with Everybody. And I'll talk about another book in a bit. One of the other things we find is that most people, you get into a room and there's almost this inferiority complex, especially when you're young. Well, I'm not as good as this person. Well, hey, this person has these credentials. That good. No one is better than anyone. And we find out in networking, a lot of times people don't feel like they're worthy to actually be in a room or talk to someone. That's crazy. You're not better than anyone, but you're not worse than anyone. We're all the same. I don't care how old I am or how good looking Don is. You know, that doesn't matter. Right, Don? He's awake. It doesn't. You're not better than anyone, but you're certainly worthy. We're on the same level as everyone. I don't care if they're a PhD. I don't care if they're rocket scientists. I don't care what they are. We're all the same. And you need to go into networking with that attitude. I'm not better than anyone, but I'm certainly worthy to speak to everyone. I'm as good. Not better, but I'm as good. And we're talking just about being a person. So get that out of your head that, well, I can't go on, this guy's the speaker, this guy runs this company, I can't talk to him or her. Yes, you can. You're as good as that person, not better. And that person is as good as you, not better. And we run into this all the time. Well, now, one of the things I'll tell you, especially social media-wise, if you want to connect with someone, don't say, oh, I want to pick your brain, or, you know, I just want to connect with you. Hey, Kelly Hoey wrote this book, Build Your Dream Network. Hey, Kelly, you're great. Let's connect. No. What you say is that I read your book, really liked it, and the one part I really liked was on page 53, where you talked about the power of carrying your trust torch or whatever. I mean, you make it that you did a little research. So if someone is out there, maybe gets a lot of requests, I guarantee you, if you're able to do that and talk specifics, they will connect with you. Develop an elevator pitch. I'm not sure if you guys at this age are familiar with an elevator pitch, but essentially all that is you meet someone, what do you want to get across about yourself in 20, 30 seconds? It may be, I'm looking to get into med school. Maybe I want to get into the draft. Whatever it is that you want to do, that's your elevator pitch. Rehearse it. Talk to people about it. And in life, sometimes you get that 20, 30 seconds, and that might be all you get. So what is that elevator pitch? Know it, rehearse it, make it succinct, and be ready to go with it when you get the opportunity. We develop a plan or strategy for networking. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Okay. That's why when we talk about networking, we talk about intentional networking. Marty Wolf came up with that term because I talked about we don't just want to do things serendipitously. We don't just want to throw stuff out there and see what comes back. Because here's what happens to most of the people that I know that think that networking failed them. They joined the Chamber of Commerce. They joined a group. They got a business card. They went out. They did something. And then 3 to 6 months later, they got no return because no one taught them how to network. And that's why we started the program. That's why Marty came up with intentional. No, what do you want? What do you want? Your network is going to get you to what you want. I want to be whatever that is. Who can I engage with in a network to get me over there? You want to, again, so you want to be intentional in what you do. And along with that, as I said, at this age, you may go through 3 or 4 things where you change up in your life. Be open to those changes. Be present. Be aware. Another book I like, I don't have it with me, I should have brought it with me, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And that's maybe my favorite book. I should have brought that. But it's just about living now, living in the present. You want to have a goal, you want to work towards that, but you want to be open to things. If you talk to most successful people, whatever you deem success to be, I bet you 9 out of 10 of them start off on this path and ended up over here or there. So be open to that. One of the things that we had talked about on the sheet, and I'll give just a couple minutes of this because I want to keep rolling, is if I just give you a couple seconds here, and I want you to think about just some of the things we talked about already. And I put on this list 3, but if you can think of just one thing so far that I had spoken about that maybe you think will help you. So I'm going to give you maybe just a couple minutes just to think about that. And then we're going to come back, and here we talked about, and we'll have you bring that to us. We talked about 3 things. Well, 1 or 2 or 3 things, if something struck a nerve or something, so give yourself just a minute or so, think about that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk and we'll continue. And Don will have the mic there if you want to bring it up. If not, I'll call on Kevin. Gave me a chance to drink water here.
While they're doing that, let me talk to you.
Yes.
So we're about halfway through this morning's conference. You got about 60 people in this room.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want the people in this room to do in the second half of this conference from a networking perspective? Just think about that for a second, because I'd like them to walk away from this with, I got half a conference left. What does networking look like for everybody in this room? Dr. Renee? What's it look like, Joy? Lily? What does networking look like for the second half of this? Kevin? Leo? What does networking look like, Bob? What does it look like for the second half?
All right. Okay, does anyone, and we will talk about that, does anyone want to bring up anything that was just discussed so far?
Questions?
There's someone back there, Don. Yeah. Forget about Leo. We only have 10 minutes, Leo.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'm Haley, and my question is about the elevator pitch. I was wondering what we should include in our elevator pitch. What are some good things to bring up in it?
Okay. So everyone has their own thing, where they want to be, what they want to do. So Haley, what you want to think about in that elevator pitch is that I'm talking to someone that might be able to help me out. So I want to think about, at tops, 2 or 3 things that are highlighted that person might be able to help me with. Again, maybe you're going to college, or maybe in high school you're looking at med school, and maybe it's a doc that you run into, or whoever it is that you run into. Hey, I'm interested in this. I do really well in science. I'm looking at maybe going to med school. Hey, any suggestions about this or that? So it's what you want to think about is when I have that conversation, that elevator pitch, when I talk to someone about someone, it just doesn't go away. That person could guide me in another direction. So what are the important points that I could bring up that maybe that person then could give? It's not just to say it so that you'll let it come out of your mouth and it just goes up in the air. I'm going to say this to someone. What's important to me, and when I say that, is there somewhere that person could lead me? The other thing I would tell you is that with the elevator pitch, find people that have a little more experience and rehearse it. Say to them, come to a Bob Courtright or Don Webster, any maybe a little more mature that you trust, and say, hey, I practice this elevator. I have this elevator pitch. Do you mind if I run it by you? And that's probably the best thing you can do, is just don't overstress about exactly what it is, because it has to be really quick, but come up with something. And then whatever that something is, run it by a few people and say, does this make sense? So will that elevator pitch elicit something else, not just, oh, that's nice, and the person goes away. But it's the key components that you're looking at that you want to get to in the future. Does that answer it, or? Okay, yes.
Hey, Bob, it's Leo.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that the worst thing that's ever happened to you during networking was being embarrassed.
Yes.
But that's different from when you're our age versus young kids.
Yes.
Has being embarrassed ever worked to your advantage?
Yeah, it has. And really the main thing is it gave me the confidence that it didn't matter. I wasn't, it's life. We're all going to be embarrassed. But what I realized, it's a great point. What I realized as I got older, big deal. And number one, everyone else gets embarrassed. And by the way, if someone's embarrassing you, they're the problem. If someone wants to poke fun or make fun of you, it's their issue. They're kind of projecting whatever their issues are. So it's not about you, it's about them. So I'm sure if I had enough time, I could think of something more about, hey, I did this or that. But the main thing was, it was fine, and I got over it and realized I don't care, and it was more about them anyway. So embarrassment is not a big deal.
Who's got a question for Bob? Thank you, Lily.
So you were talking about the elevator pitch, but you've also mentioned asking about them. So within a conversation, are there certain cues that they might give you where that's your opportunity to give that elevator pitch?
Yes, when they ask. When
Good.
you want to get your point across. But if that person is not going to respond, if it's just I call them one-way street people, it's all about them. If at some point 9 out of 10 people will come back and ask about you, if they don't give you that, they're not going to help you and just kind of walk away. Most normal, nice people, which most people are, after you're asking about them, eventually they'll come around and they'll ask about you. And I like business cards. I'm not a big believer in throwing them at people unless they ask you for them. But again, networking is about helping others, and it will come back. If it doesn't come back, if they don't give that opening, you could force it, but why force it? Usually there'll be a gap, and they'll say, oh, by the way, they'll be smiling because they're asking about you, or you're asking about them, and they're happy to tell you about themselves. And I think you'll feel that. And then at some point, normally, they'll allow. They'll say, hey, how about you, or what? And then you go. But don't force, bless you, don't force it, don't start it. Ask about them.
What's your phrase? Be interested.
It's better to be interested than interesting. It's better to say, hey, I'm sorry, what's your name? You asked a question?
Lily.
Lily? It's better to say, hey, Lily, how about this? What about that? Ask a question or two, and then, okay. And then if I come out and say, Lily, you know how smart I am? And not actually saying that, but telling you all the things I've done, you say, oh, what a piece of work this guy is. So it's better to do that, and then it's better to focus on that person and be interested in them.
Did you guys catch that? It's a big key.
Yes.
Be interested, not interesting.
Yes.
Questions? Dr. Renee. Hi, Jill.
Good
Wait,
morning.
is it about donuts?
We did meet over the donuts.
Oh, geez.
I told
Did
you
you
I was
leave
coming.
any donuts for the rest of us?
No, I had 3.
Son
I
of
don't
a
even
gun.
care.
All right, go ahead. You're all right.
I would recommend the little brown ones with the sugar. Okay, so I want to touch a little bit more upon what you were saying, and I am kind of in the same generation as you, even though I don't look it, where we did not I mean, I went to Coughlin. I didn't know anybody that went to Hanover. However, in the world that these children live in, with social media, I mean, they have friends that they consider, you know, somebody they confide in that's living in Colorado or in Shanghai. So their social network is beyond the grasp of what we grew up with. However, whether an introvert or an extrovert, I would appreciate if you could touch upon the importance of them putting out who they are via their emoji or their email address, so on and so forth, if that is the way that they are networking.
Quick question here. 40? No, that's not the question. Quick question. Quick question. So I'm going to ask you, give some thought to how many people in this room you think are introverts. Think about that for a second.
Okay.
Okay, quick question for this crowd. How many of you are introverts? Now answer her question. Introverts and extroverts. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I'm an introvert. I think I'm an ambivert in that when I need to be in front of people, I need to be in a crowd, I could do it. But I'd rather not. I'd rather talk to people one-on-one. Let me skip ahead and answer that question by talking about what's on the sheet about social media and belly to belly and all that. Yeah, and I'm the same way. The only time I met someone in high school is when we got in a fight. You can't come here, you know, that kind. Thank God. Hopefully a lot of that's done. We talk about social media and just being online and all that. First off, that I live on LinkedIn. I make a living mainly off LinkedIn, but on social media. So I live in these platforms. So I believe in being able to connect with people on social media. But if you're really going to do anything long term, there's got to be that face-to-face, what Kelly Hoey would call IRL, in real life. That you really need to do that to really get to know them. Now, I use social media more than anyone, and I make those contacts. But until I get that face-to-face, so you need to do that. And you can use whatever platform is best for you. But I think, what you want to be, first off, you want to be careful. You want to say, why am I on this platform? Why am I doing this? I always talk about it. I'm on LinkedIn forever, but I'm always saying, why do I get on that? Why am I doing this today? So whatever platform you're on, whatever you choose, fine. Be careful with it. Understand that you really don't know that person on the other side yet. It's just, I like to look at social media like I do at real life, and that is, you get to know them, you take it slow. You're not going to know someone for a first meeting. So I'd be real careful on social media and saying, hey, I developed a great relationship with someone over 1 or 2 DMs or something like that. That's just not the way it works. And, be wary out there. There's a lot of, most people are good, but there's some people that aren't. And there's some people that make a living off taking information off me. By the way, what has happened, even with LinkedIn, is that it's become a little Facebook-y where I'm getting a lot of people sending me requests to meet. And then they're trying to sell me something, or I think, oh God, I didn't think it got to LinkedIn. So you got to be really careful out there. There's an industry, there's a dark web, there's an industry out there that's taking what you do on social media and trying to do something harmful. So I think you want to take it slow. In any kind of, again, look at social media as you look at real life. Take it slow. And don't really think you get to know someone, really well, or do something until you get that IRL, that in real life kind of, that kind of face-to-face interaction. I'll go back to this. So the books, I told you about those other books. This is the book that we teach off. It's called Build Your Dream Network by J. Kelly Hoey. Build Your Dream Network, J. Kelly Hoey. And this is kind of our Bible. It's what we teach from. So I would tell you, if you're interested in networking, you want to take a look at these 3 books, Switchers, Don Graham, Network All the Time, Everywhere, Everybody, Jack Killian, Build Your Dream Network, Kelly Hoey.
Bob, believe it or not, maybe one more question from the crowd?
What kind of business is Courtright and Associates? Like, I know you said you teach, but is that something separate?
Yes, Courtright and Associates is a retained executive search firm. So companies will come to us they'll look for management people. We go find those people. So that's what we do. It's and sometimes referred to as headhunters. You'll hear that term. That's what we do. Some people take that as negative. I don't really care. If you hear someone talk about the industry of headhunting, that's what we do.
So Bob, sort of to wind this down, halfway through the conference, what's one thing everybody in this room can do in the second half of the conference?
Apply what we're talking about here. Don't think because you're from Wallenpaupack and there's someone from Hazleton or whatever that you can't go up. Okay, what are you here for? You're here, this is TechBridge, Entrepreneur Institute. You're here for a reason. You have something in common. So there's nothing wrong with you going up to that person. Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. What brings you here? And again, and you listen to the answer, then you have a connection. You have the reason that you're here. So all you have to do is go up and introduce yourself to anyone. Smile, look them in the eye, and just start the conversation. It's not like you're walking on the square and, hey, by the way, I'm Bob. How are you doing today? What are you up? No, you're here for a reason. And in most situations like that, you're there for a reason. So look them in the eye. And if there's one thing and you ask that question, introduce yourself to as many people as you can. In my group, the NEPA networkers, I always tell them, my goal is everyone in the room meet everyone else. You don't know what's going to happen with that. So introduce yourself to as many people as possible. Ask about themselves, bless you, and see if, and here, do this. If you talk to 10 people, which I encourage you to do, I bet you 9 of them will ask about you after you ask about them.
Okay, so that's a little aspirational for me. Homework. Everybody in this room, I want you to introduce yourself to one person that you don't know and say, Don and Bob asked me to talk to one person I don't know. There's your icebreaker. We're making it okay. Before you leave this conference today, how about try it out and see what happens? One person you don't know, try creating a conversation. It's called practice.
There you go.
You can't break it, right?
One last thing, if I can.
Sure.
Networking, like dieting, or like any athletes here, anyone want to play any sport? Raise your hand. Okay. Raise your hands again. Over there on the right. Which sport do you play? You wrestle. Okay. Do you, when you're in season, how many times do you practice a week? Okay. When you're off season, how many times do you practice? How many times do you do something to make yourself a better wrestler? Yeah. Okay. When you're looking at dieting or a good eating plan, you're doing that all the time. This should become part of your consciousness. If you're going to be a good networker, that's what people tell me all the time. You practice what you preach. I believe in it. It's what I do. So do it here today, and then when you leave here, when you go to the next thing, keep doing it. And what will happen is you'll get wins, whatever a win will be, and that'll energize you to do it more.
All right, so if any of you are on LinkedIn and you want to connect with Bob, the one thing I'm going to say is don't say, can I connect? Say, hey, I saw you at the Entrepreneurship Institute conference, and I would like to talk to you some more. All right, Bob Courtright.
Perfect. Thank you.
You guys can come talk to him right now if you want. We are back here, in here, 10:40 for the panel. Bathrooms are over here. We got a couple minutes between sessions. Talk to one person you don't know. Thank you.